And welcome to Greatest Scene Ever, Smorgasbord Edition. I'm Professor Greg Smith. This is Professor Carlos Brennan. And today we're doing a special edition of our series. We're going to call it Greatest Scene Ever. And Carlos, what have you got for your third pick of today?
Well, my third choice is a movie that perhaps wouldn't end up on the list of the greatest films ever or the greatest scenes ever, but it's a film that falls outside of typical genres, holds a special place in my heart as being a bit of an inspiration for me and connecting with me at a certain point in my life, in a certain approach to films that just resonated with me and still does to this day. It's from 2001. It's a dark comedy, has some of my favorite things like Halloween, time travel, and a large scary bunny. This is director Richard Kelly's Donnie Darko.
In cooperation with the county police, we have begun an active investigation into the cause of the flooding, and our suspects include several of our own students.
Now, I want to know why this filth is being taught to our children.
That's what I want. Kitty, I would appreciate if you would wait.
Dr. Cole, not only am I a teacher, but I am also a parent of a Middlesex child. Therefore, I am the only person here who transcends the parent-teacher bridge.
Don't worry. You got away with it.
I have in my hand Graham Greene's The Destructors. This short story is part of my daughter's English assignment. In this story, several children destroy an elderly man's house from inside out.
How can we do that?
And how do they do this? They flood the house by breaking through a water main.
I can do anything I want. And so can you.
And I think that this garbage should be removed.
Excuse me. What is the real issue here? The PTA doesn't ban books.
The PTA is here to acknowledge that pornography is being taught in our curriculum.
It's meant to be ironic.
Excuse me, you need to go back to grad school.
Why do you make me flood the school?
They are in great danger.
We have kids here.
You even know who Graham Greene is.
I think we have all seen Bonanza.
Well, while we are on other topics,
Where did you come from?
Do you believe in time travel?
Who are you talking to?
Okay, great scene or greatest scene ever?
Well, it's, again, I tend to choose the scenes that I think encompass the feel of the film overall as much as possible. You can easily argue in any of these choices that there may be a greater scene somewhere in the film. I chose this scene because I think it really, if you wanted to show someone a scene that incorporate more or less a hint at the entire film, from the commentary on suburban life and the way high schools environments tend to be, the pettiness of certain people, the dark comedy involved, and of course the supernatural / psychological thriller aspect with Frank the Bunny and Donnie's hallucinations, which are somehow connected to time travel and maybe connected to his meds, but maybe he's got supernatural powers. It's all kind of woven in this elusive way. And of course it's solved at the end, more or less, kind of. So I chose it because it had all those pieces. And if you saw it, you wouldn't be surprised by what else happens in the film.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's other scenes that perhaps are funnier or better filmed or whatever, but when you watch the whole movie, you'd be like, well, wait a second, that scene wasn't indicative
A little
of the rest
dark
of
edge
you
to
know?
it, but
Yeah.
still it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I chose this film because when I saw it, I was going to school for my graduate degree in film, and it's probably the first film I saw by a director who was actually my age. I believe Richard Kelly has me by like 2 years.
Okay.
So I saw a film by someone who wasn't someone I was looking up to,
Yeah.
who had been further along in their career, or, well, obviously he was further along in his career than I was at the time, or arguably I am now. But he was my age, you know, and he wasn't like looking up to someone who was, you know, Steven Spielberg or getting
Yeah, it
younger, Jim
wasn't-
Jarmusch
yeah,
or Kevin
yeah.
Smith or whoever, who had me by 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Right.
It
And
was
seemed like
someone
older men. or something.
speaking
Yeah.
my language.
Yeah.
You know, and has some of the elements of nostalgia that I have from my childhood, growing up from 80s to early 90s. It has this sci-fi element, you know, that of course we've talked before. I love sci-fi and Halloween and horror and all that. And oddly enough, Richard Kelly is a local, grew up at least partially, from my understanding, in this area, in the Washington, D.C. area,
sure.
and took some inspiration from a local urban legend of the Bunny Man killer.
Yep. Virginia. Was it suburban Virginia?
Suburban Virginia, there's a specific bridge
Yeah.
that is sometimes referred to as the Bunny Man Bridge.
Yep.
And while it doesn't directly reference that urban legend, it's part of the inspiration for Frank's costume.
Yeah. And I often wondered when I saw this come out. Actually, I remember years ago when I first saw it, I thought that it had referenced an earlier film, Jimmy Stewart and Harvey.
Oh, that's a very good
which
point.
which also has
Yeah.
him with the mythical bunny, which only he can see, which gives him wise and sage advice.
Right.
Donnie Darko sort of a darker twist on
Like a
that.
little twist on it,
But
okay.
you know, it's one of those things that what we do is we prompt discussion on this program. We leave it to you to fill in the blanks. So there's a blank
So
you can fill in after you see
What
this.
do you think about
Yeah.
hallucinated bunnies and their effect
right.
on main characters?
And if you're seeing them, you should be looking at something else on the web other than a film show.
Maybe
right?
we can spark an entire,
Right.
like, further mini genre of hallucinated rabbit films. We've
of-
only got 2 so
I
far
think
that
it's
we
another,
know of.
I think it's another branch of psychiatry. Is
Send,
actually
send
what
in
we're
your
talking
emails
That's
about
right.
other films
That's
with
right.
hallucinated bunnies.
Or hallucinating animals of any kind.
Sure,
Right,
we
okay.
can branch out.
So one of the things we did with this series throughout the years is to reference certain genres and to reference certain films. One of the things we decided to do for this edition was to, when we were talking about how to sort of, we're wrapping up this version of Greatest Scene Ever. Greatest Scene Ever will be back in some version, but this version here, we're kind of wrapping up here with this series that we're doing today. And when I talked with you, I said we should pick 3 films and, try to make them broad or whatever, but think about desert island films. So Donnie Darko is the third of the films that you presented here today. Desert island film, yes, no? Could you watch this over and over again?
Yes, it's
You
in the
could.
running.
Okay.
It's hard to really say for sure desert island films.
Yeah.
But I would say, discounting a few films we've already covered,
Yeah.
because I figured I should keep them off the list. Because there's a couple we've gone over
I
that,
repead one.
that would be in, well,
I'm about to in my next.
you've been on this stage a lot longer and more
whatever.
times than I have.
I'm so old.
But there's a few films from our past episodes that I would consider for my desert island list. I knocked those off right away. Decided to go for some other ones.
Good.
So I do think that it's in the running. It's definitely in the running.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko would be in the running, as would my other 2 I brought up in our series at the moment.
Okay, doke. Well, I've got one more that I'm going to bring
That you
up
wanna toss out?
and
All
in
right.
just a moment, and it's going to be in our next segment of this series.
Okay.
But we're going to wrap this one up to remind you to check out the Donnie Darko and all the films we're discussing today in their full length. They're always much more enjoyable that way. But for now, I'm Greg and he's Kylos, and this is Greatest Scene Ever.